Welcome, Ninja Mack, to the Danish podcast. The name, I will probably not say it in Danish, but it's The Wrestler and the Nerd, if I should translate it in some ways. But this is actually quite strange for me because I've never heard about a wrestling ninja. Ninja, for me, I associated with the quite old movie, probably you know it, American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff. But you look way more cool. So the question is now, who is Ninja Mack? And that's why we're here today. So take us back to where you first tasted the wrestling. How did it taste in your mouth? When did you first find out, I don't want to be just a ninja, I want to be a wrestling ninja?
Well, Wrestling Nerd and Podcast. Want to make a bet today for your podcast?
Yeah, I always bet.
Good bet. Well, fans, if you haven't, go out and always go and subscribe to these podcasts and shows. These are our best ways to get out there. Ninja Mack. I would say I wasn't just a ninja before I wrestled. I wasn't just a ninja now that I wrestle. I think I've always had the heart, the spirit, and the soul of a ninja, even growing up from a younger kid. As ninja, you kind of endure, you train, you discipline yourself. And I've really taken that aspect of that mindset and put that into every aspect of what I do, not just training in the ring, but, when it comes to finances, when it comes to working a career and a job. So I really embrace the ninja philosophy and the mindset it's able to create. And I think that's where the birth of ninja really started. And then, as you get older and you get more entertained with TV, I love movies growing up, everything about ninjas captivating, fighting, and then WWF, Triple A, back to Pro Wrestling Noah in the early 2000s. Those were the shows I was able to catch as a kid on TV. And that's what intrigued me as a ninja. So the ninja mindset, and then really, really watching pro wrestling growing up as a kid and then being an amateur wrestler myself. I really just embraced it, and it's just magical how the two worlds have really, really come together to just make one unique character.
So it's just, you can say it's a merger of two worlds for you. It's the wrestling world and the ninja philosophy that you have taken in and becoming the character Ninja Mack.
Yes, but I think the numbers are off. I wouldn't just say two. I would have to say three. My wrestling, my wrestling. My ninja philosophy, and then the mathematics of gambling.
Yeah. But what is that thing about betting? Because
you know what? I just don't wrestle as a professional ninja wrestler all the time. I do like to be a professional gambler. I like to sit at the tables. I like the intrigue of the game. If you play a little Texas Hold'em, some roulette, some Omaha, I'll sit down, and it's not just there's a way to play a game, and there's a way to learn to read people. And when you can learn to read people, and then you can almost interpretate just by mindset, action, voice. The reading of has really helped ninja grow. So it's really three things have come together for me to make one thing, and that one thing helps me in all three categories.
Okay. So actually, it's those things that you also use in the ring. I could imagine that you use this ability to read your opponent.
Of course, every angle and every number to a degree is analyzed, just like every probability and every fraction in a gambling hand. When you have to make a tough decision on the spot and that clock's running down, and then let alone with me not being 6'7" like most of these monsters on the field, I have to take huge risk and huge gambles and at higher payoffs just to be able to survive out there with these monsters, because I am not the largest person. I do got a little bit of a size for only being a 5'5" man. I believe in Europe terms, you could put me around 165 to 170 centimeters. I could be off on that. That's probably way off, but
but it really doesn't matter with the height, I think, because there's a hype growing about Ninja Mack all over the internet at the moment. And I can really understand why, because I've seen some of your moves. It's out of this world, if you ask me. It's like, for me, it's like being a little kid in a candy shop when I watch you. It's such a joy because what you're doing is, in my eyes, very unique in the wrestling world. I've not seen anything like it for what can you say? Over 30 years. I watch wrestling myself for over 35 years. So,
well, I think at the time, being just another part of my life that I've added on, talking about those three other things that really formed me. My performance base got so much better when I went to the circus, and I was able to perform under a high level of stress in front of a lot of people before I even got into the wrestling world. So I was able to get a taste of what the eyes on you look like. And in the circus, there's you do act, and there's multiple people in it. In the ring, it comes down to one person in a promo. It comes down to two people in a match, obviously according to specific matches. But there's more of a chance for you to capture a moment, and maybe that's selfish of me, but I want the eyes. I want the attention. I want to stand out. I believe everyone at a very high level in every degree, especially Pro Wrestling Noah, because we know Pro Wrestling Noah is number one in the world.
Yeah, it is. It's actually there where there's so many exciting talents.
Oh, yeah. That locker room that we just had the last 2 weekends brought in great stars from across the world. You had level stars from older generations, younger generations, all over in every program. That locker room is going to be something crazy if we can move forwards. And then watch that Noah roster grow as they just got some visas into America. And I believe Japan actually opens back up sometime in June. So that's going to be very exciting to get that tourist part going again.
Okay. Wow. That's so exciting. But for me also, I want to take some steps backwards and take it all the way back from when you first started in professional wrestling. Because let's go back to the year 2014. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ninja, that was when you started in pro wrestling. Yeah, did you start before?
Nope, that was when I started pro wrestling. I was finishing my last circus tour. The last city we were doing is a Seattle show. And on this last tour, there was I think we were just touring the West Coast 4 weeks. And one of the guys on the tour used to do pro wrestling a couple of years ago. And he saw that I was pretty good at amateur wrestling, and he saw all the circus crazy flips. And he recommended that I go find a school. So I left that tour on a Friday, and I happened to be from Houston, Texas. And there's a very famous wrestler who has one of the most amazing schools in Houston. I don't know if you know that. $5 bet. $5 bet. You know who's the famous wrestler in Houston with a school?
I could probably say the name Booker T.
Booker T. I owe you $5. You got bet.
But hey, instead of giving me $5, and I think probably we'll do some bets before the end of this podcast, more or less want to bet on a T-shirt.
A T-shirt?
Yeah, a Ninja Mack T-shirt instead.
All right. This one's for a T-shirt then, if we're going to make a bet for a T-shirt.
Yeah, we'll do.
When?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. If you got one, I don't know, because more or less every wrestler got a T-shirt or a photo or something like that.
We can work something out.
Yeah, okay, perfect. But let's take it back from the school where you started with Booker T, because he's a one hell of an amazing guy, and I could probably imagine one hell of a teacher as well.
The guy's a legend. Just even from the first moment of seeing him walk into the room, you understand what a WWE Hall of Fame legend carries. They have a certain energy. As soon as they open that door, all the eyes gravitate to that. Yeah. And you know what? There's no avoiding that. And that was one of the biggest things I learned. It's not just being in the ring and doing good matches. It's going in, and when you walk in that room, you shake everyone's hand, but you make sure everyone knows that you're there. It's not just walking in, I'm here for a show. You need to be up in front. You need to be shaking everyone's hand. Is there something you need? Get out to the ring. Go out there and ask the people if they need help. So that was one of the biggest things I was able to learn, which really carried a lot for Pro Wrestling Noah. I think they saw the work that I was doing extra. I didn't just show up. I really committed to myself, not just doing the matches. I was there with the ring, asking if I could be used. Could I be ready for a photo shoot? Could I do the extra work? You know what? Can we go out? Can we go out tonight? So it was.
Exactly.
But even just going out to promote the show, that was one of the first things you learned from Booker T school down in Houston,
Ah,
Texas, at Reality Wrestling. So a lot of
exciting.
my beginnings at Booker's wasn't just learning the wrestling part and the psychology part. It was the discipline and the respect for the sport. And
Ah,
that carried me a long way. So
so,
yes, I did start in 2014 with Booker T,
mm,
but that was right at the end of December. So I would say I had a good start in 2015 when they really pulled me into matches. And
yeah,
it was a very short thing at Booker's. So it just, you at the level I was already working, I was
yeah.
trying to expand and try and do 4 or 5 matches a weekend, to where
Oh,
when you're running a TV show, you're trying to run one good one a month, maybe 2 a month. And I
yeah.
needed a little more work rate. So, I learned what I needed to learn. I grew, I moved on, and I've been on a very rogue journey since.
So what? Take us through this journey because it's quite long. Because take us back to the year 2015. Then what happened there? Because your first step was in 14, but from there on, 2015. What happened in your career there?
I was so focused, coming off the discipline of just being in the circus and already performing. I wasn't in a rush to have a 9 to 5 job. So I was fully committed to training, and I spent my time in that gym, and I disciplined myself, and I trained probably more than most, but I still train, I think, more than most right now, because I'll go to the ring 3 times a day if I can, even if it's just short hour quick roll or 2 hours. I think it's just a habit of wanting to be in the gym, wanting to be in the ring. So just as I was training, I was able to be very fortunate and have good trainers there, like Ryan Davidson. They had a
Oh,
Rex Andrews. Actually, Ryan just did a Japan tour right
oh,
before the COVID thing. So I was able to be fortunate to
ah.
have to be able to go back and speak to some people to kind of prepare myself to get ready for more Japan work instead of just coming out here on a limb.
Yeah, because I think it probably, as you were saying, it's quite important to be seen, to be present everywhere you can when you start up a career in pro wrestling, because there's so many wrestlers out there
Of
that you
course.
have to stand out, not just stand out, but be very unique to take some important steps. I could probably think about.
Of course, and even if it's the extra 30 seconds by carrying 1 or 2 rails at the ring,
Yeah.
you know what? That's 30 more seconds that they saw you doing something instead of you sitting by your bag or on your phone.
Exactly. Exactly. That's probably, I could think, which makes a good wrestler or a great wrestler. It's
Yep.
going that extra mile or be disciplined in everything you do. But
But it carries right over to matches too.
yeah,
You go that extra mile for that crowd, and you push yourself to a limit you've never pushed yourself. I mean, that crowd will feed you.
yeah. And they're feeding you at the moment, you can think. But I think for me, it's the most important thing is actually understanding the road to where you are now, because everyone can see that you can do some breathtaking stuff, but how did you get there? That's what I want to find out. I want to find one brick at a time for the puzzle. Maybe we will not solve the whole puzzle about Ninja Mack today, but I'll bet you we will solve a little bit of the puzzle. But take us through some steps in your career to where you are now. Some of the most important, what can you say, pointers or barriers that you crossed. When did you first, what can you say, your first trouble thing you experienced in pro wrestling? The first bump that you experienced.
Just Booker T school.
Yeah.
Just starting there and working hard, trying to do more work. And like I told you, I needed to progress. I'm down in Texas, which we're connected to Mexico,
Yeah.
and at the time there was tons of lucha shows happening. And on weekends, I could fit in 2 on a Friday, 3 on a Saturday, and then I could drive up to Dallas and go do 3 on a Sunday. And even though they weren't big paying shows, by doing the amount of reps, if I could get 5 a weekend, I can make 5 shirts each show. And then even back then, I was able to grind my own self to not have to work. I could literally just work Wendy's. Now, yeah, my work rate was a lot higher, but the growth of me to be able to step away from where I started at Booker's and knowing like it was a primetime spot, because that could have led to NXT, that could have led to other TV shows. Booker T's bringing in people. I saw that only working once every 2 months or 3 months, because our roster was so big, I wasn't going to grow at the rate I needed to grow. So that was a very hard and probably tough decision to leave Booker's and then really grind out a lucha schedule over the next couple years, year and a half, 2 years, where I got to actually work at a much quicker pace, because it was much more fluent, which I had. I said I had a lot of amateur shoot wrestling from school, but having the knowledge of Booker T and what I learned from them, anyone at this higher level can always wrestle. So if I can always wrestle, why not try and learn a different pace and move higher, go faster? And by able to learn and get around more luchadors with my athletic ability already, I was able to sharpen my presence and my ninja skills. And that way, when I came back, so after my lucha run, I actually at this time probably been working professional shows for 10 years at this point because of my circus experience. So before I got to Booker's, I was coming off that circus tour. I was probably 6 or 7 years into the circus at that point.
Okay. Yeah. But when did you feel that this is what you had to overcome something throughout your career to where you are now? Which is the most important thing that you think that you overcame?
Leaving, like I said,
leaving Booker T.
No, well, I was gonna say I think that was the hardest transition in my wrestling career.
Okay.
I do think the hardest decision was coming off that circus tour in Seattle, going to Booker T's first fantasy camp, where I got to experience myself in the ring and meet these guys for the first time. I never went back to the circus, and that was leaving. That was leaving a very well-paid job to go start at a professional wrestling school. So, that was, I think I could have went back to the circus if things didn't work out a year or two, but I also don't have that mindset. That's not the mindset of a ninja. Once I was focused on a decision, I was 100%. So I did not take one more circus job once I left the circuits. And that was just on the whim of, hey, let me try a training school. That wasn't like I was guaranteed indie shows, because I didn't know what independent wrestling was back in 2014, 15. I only knew Booker T. And after I did Booker T, I only knew Texas Lucha or Mexico Lucha. I never went north. I never went to a different state. Texas was so big, I could work every weekend in Texas. San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Marcos. Between the 10 big cities in Texas, I never had to leave Texas, and I did 4 or 5 shows a weekend every weekend for probably a year and a half or 2 years, just lucha.
So let's talk a little bit about your matches, Ninja, because I think for me also you have some career-defining matches that you look back to and say, well, this match and that match. But can you mention 3 opponents or 3 matches where this is, what can you say, something that stands out or is career defining matches?
Well, I would say the first one that really stands out was for local wrestling in March. I believe the show's name was Los Javieles. It was one of our Locha shows, but me and Dragon Bane had a match. And that match was the match with Wrestling with Unicorns filmed. And because Dragon Bane had previous Noah experience before COVID, they and Triple R were able to see that match. Because of that match, Noah reached out to me, and it was a whole year process of trying to get to Noah with COVID. But because of that match, that match was the reason Noah reached out, Triple A reached out, GCW reached out.
Okay.
And after that match, I started my whole GCW run because I couldn't travel with COVID as much. But like I said, so that's a very big match. Number 2, me and Dante Leon, we had a big local show, but I would think the big one was for JCW, which is a umbrella of the GCW show. Me and Joey Janela, who reached out.
Oh, yes.
that man's given me a lot of opportunity. I thank him for that. But so me and Dante were going to be semi-main event for one of their first coming back JCW shows. And Joey's main event. And before we go out, he comes up to us and says, guys, I'm going to put the pressure on y'all, and we're going to flip-flop this. Y'all are now main event. Me and him are going semi. Don't disappoint.
Okay, and, that's cool.
And it was cool, but he's telling you that right before you're about to walk out, and you're like, oh, well, we're gonna have to turn it up another gear because now we're main event. We're not just semi-main, so you gotta really stand out to finish off the show of its return show. So that match was very important to me and Dante, and I think it really helped us have a strong year for GCW. Yeah. I think we've taken GCW to some new heights, which is good. Okay. And match 3, I would have to say this most recent weekend, the match with Kaito. For Noah, only because it is my first professional singles match in Pro Wrestling Noah. He's a very young prodigy. He's a young star. He's going to be so much money as he continues to grow, and he already is so much money. He's worth so much. But for them to be able to put me in the ring with him, give me the respect and the responsibility to try and do my best to take one of their young stars out. Unfortunately, I lost that bet, but just like any other bet, you got to get back on the table or you double down next time and we see what we can pull off. Yeah. So those would be my top 3 matches: Dragon Bane, Dante Leon, and then Kaito from this last tour.
But also now you're talking a little bit about a lot of the promotions, but rumor goes around that sometime last year you were approached by several promotions. Can you give us a little bit of insight to who those were, or is it a ninja secret?
I don't know if it's necessarily a secret, but there was, at the time I wasn't signed to anyone. I've done a couple GCW shows, and it wasn't like I just did the one GCW show. They kept bringing me back. The next weekend they brought me back, and then after 3 weekends you realize, they're gonna use Ninja Mack as a regular. He's not just gonna be a guy that shows up. No, and as long as they ask, I told Brett I'll be ready to do every show. So GC fucking dub, thank you. I love y'all. Great locker room. I really think that locker room bonded over this last year and grew together. Nice. And that's why we were able to take GCW as high as we did. But I also knew that with the backing of GCW, I wasn't pressured to let these other companies try and wrap me up and wrap my TV deals up and my TV rights. And I knew with Noah already previously contacting me, and that was something I really aimed for coming back to wrestling, was to really get into Pro Wrestling Noah. I already had it in the back of my hand. So I had that bargaining chip. And if I wasn't able to get a number that I wanted or that I felt was satisfied for my ninja family, I wasn't in a rush to sign 2 or 3 years away for the minimal of the COVID excuse dollars that were offered because we're in COVID times. And, if we're in COVID times, just use me as an independent contractor. Why do you have to wrap me up for 2 years? Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying those companies offered great money for me. And especially for the work rate I was doing and just coming back, I wasn't charging an substantial amount of money, but I also thought it was a little unfair that it's COVID times and you want to wrap me up for 3 years of TV with no way out. And you can only promise me 10 shows a year, but we might get to 30, maybe. And so it's at that rate, why not just stay with GC Dub where I'm happy? They're treating me well. They're using me, even though in GC Dub they're a little hardcore and they probably whip my ass a lot. But I enjoy the discipline of trying to do my best against these monsters, because that GCW locker room is a different breed. Yeah, but then again, have you been approached now directly? Have you been approached by one of the 2 big ones, WWE or AEW? So I just recently did the Ring of Honor show by with Brian Cage. That monster of a machine whooped my ass so bad for 7 minutes. And I tried to fight back and he threw me around. So Ring of Honor, y'all have a future champion, I believe, because it's not often I get my ass whooped that hard. No. And for him to throw my ass around, I think Ring of Honor needs to watch out for Brian Cage. Now going back, I was contacted by Ring of Honor before they were bought by AEW. After they were bought, it did take a little bit for them to reach out, but they're doing all the transactions and transitions. But as soon as I got in touch with Chris Daniels and Tony Khan, they were great. They were reached out and they were able to get me every information I needed for the show. They let me still do the show, which was phenomenal because they didn't have to use me. And just out of respect of using the previous talent agreement, they still let me do it, which I'm so thankful for, just because I got me another set of eyes. And as long as I can entertain for a new set of eyes and I can grow Ninja Mack, that's all I'm trying to work for. So thank you, Tony. Thank you, Chris. And then besides that, I have not been in touch with AEW or the big monster WWE. I've sent out I'm not one against either of them. I've sent out applications for NXT when I was first coming back. Yeah. So I've sent out work and I've never got answered. So I've chosen to take my talent to elsewhere. Japan.
Yeah, but I think actually it will be a little bit sad for me that you will be put into that big crushing machine right now, because I really like the creative freedom that you have to develop your character. Because I think
I wouldn't change.
There's so much potential in the way that the stuff that you are doing now. So please promise me, and I would like to bet with you on that you have a bright future. And I really hope that we will see you somewhere down the line in the New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Who?
In New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I don't know who that is.
No, okay. No. Okay.
Yeah. I just know for Wrestling Noah. Number one wrestling company in Japan.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Noah and your future there, because I think there's so much there for you, as you're saying, so much for you to do there. So what will the future bring for Ninja Mack in Noah?
I think after these last 4 shows and the 2 weeks I had, I've made it very clear that I'm already there for a Junior Heavyweight Championship run. Yeah. If they want to put me at the end of the line and they want to put me in a grind to run through their whole roster for a whole year, it's no problem for me. I don't mind taking every single challenge. If they want to give me the runners up just to give me a better standing and just see where I'm at, give me a better spot on the card title, then I'm ready to wrestle whoever they need me to wrestle to show. But I will be the Junior Heavyweight Championship at one point. And after that, you never know what could happen with a ninja.
No, the ninja will always evolve, but just disappear.
I vanish, big puff of smoke. You never know.
Exactly. Ninjas always disappears with smoke. Have you ever considered using that when you enter the ring? Just popping up?
There's been a couple times, but I would say, with the level of ninja experience I have, my current smoke screen isn't as good as it needs to be. So that's something I could work on. I've had a failed couple attempts where maybe my practice of my ninja smoke isn't as good as it needs to be yet.
Yeah. So that should probably be one thing that you should be working a little bit harder on. So you can use that one, probably popping up around in the ring.
Of course, smoke, my smoke ninjutsu, that's a good attack to use one day, but we got some work in to do because I've failed so far at it.
Okay. But I think now actually we could talk for hours and hours. It's such a pleasure to have this opportunity for me to talk with you, because I really want the wrestling world to know Ninja Mack.
Hey, they're going to find out if they don't know already, and you can bet that.
And I'll bet on that. Exactly. But what can I say? I could ask a lot more questions, but I think you have to go back to training, as you mentioned before I turned on this microphone, and we talked a little bit about that. So Ninja Mack, I hope that you enjoyed this. It was a pleasure for me to do this interview, and I'll bet we'll talk again soon.
I appreciate that. And people that are listening to this podcast, if you go out there and you want to make a bet, please go subscribe, follow, comment, like, do everything you can to make this podcast get out there. And Ninja Mack appreciates y'all. Y'all can bet that. Have a good day.